maybe
Okay. Oh.
ahead of time slightly. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
hello everyone. Hi Steve.
Hey, Sergey. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing that we have you today, and it's a pleasure like always. So we are waiting for some people to come. We already have at least 20 people. So hello.
Hello, everybody. So, yeah,
Mhm.
why don't if you're here, which you are, if you're hearing us, then let us know where you're coming in from and what you would love to get out of this webinar today. 'Cause that way, I can do everything I can, along with Sergey, to give you what you want.
Yep, it's a pleasure. Okay. Hello,
Hey,
Barbara.
Barbara. All right.
Yeah, don't be shy, do not hesitate, just share your ideas. What do you want, like where do you join from? And what expectations do you have for today's session, like Steve mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, what oh, hello.
Hawaii.
Mm.
Aloha. Looking to learn how to plan better with poor working memory and low motivational follow through. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Hello from Maryland. Hey, Stephanie.
Stephanie, hello.
What Kirill said. Yeah, okay, Barbara. I think we're going to cover some of that stuff for sure.
Mhm. Oh, hello, Bjorn.
Hey, Bjorn. Norway, Columbus, Ohio. Help me find a path to consistent revenue, and I'll sign up for X Tiles today.
It's a
All right.
challenge for you, Steve, and for me as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do. Task prioritization when it comes to ADHD. Yeah, we'll talk about that and why that can be such a tricky thing.
Hello.
Hey, Tia.
A lot of amazing people as always.
Yeah.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Hello, hello.
It's amazing to see you today. Hello.
Am I going to put it on? North Carolina. Anything to help me start to feel like I'm moving forward in life and not feel like the to-do list just keep getting longer. Oh, I've been there. I think we're going to have some stuff for you here.
Definitely. What is sex tiles? You need to sign up to understand its value, but basically it's a productivity application. Now we are more focused on people with ADHD. Of course, we are quite suitable for everybody, even for people without any ADHD, but we believe that it will help us to create a really simple but powerful tool. So basically it's about it's a place where you can make a brain dump, prioritize all the stuff around, to use tasks, connect your calendar, but basically just create a layout that will mirror your brain. And it's not something that like advertisements that I use in my speech. It's something that our users say. Yeah, I was there
Yeah,
as
and I'll
well.
be walking. Awesome. I will be walking through an example too. So you'll get a real sense of that, of what you can do with it, and especially on an ADHD specific context. We're going to have that.
Hello.
Hello from LinkedIn, Vivian. Glad you're with us. All right. How to keep on track when you have to switch tasks often. Oh, yeah, that's a big thing. How to have a sort of feeling of accomplishment. Yes, Tia. Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Nice. Okay, I believe we can start. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think we're good. Let me just make sure I got all my screens and all the places they should be.
Thank you for your comments, by the way.
Yeah.
And do not hesitate to ask your questions, because we will have some part in the end of our session to answer all the questions. But of course, we will answer your questions during the session as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go to what we're going to talk about today.
Stephanie, thank you so much for your feedback.
Awesome. So what we're going to talk about today is from dopamine to dollars, the ADHD way to consistent revenue. And where we're going to start here, the first big tip for getting to some revenue, right? So what's the single best way to get paid, especially if you're ADHD? I'll wait for a few ideas from the chat, but
my favorite question.
Yeah, the single best way to get paid if you have ADHD often?
I believe we have a couple of people who will attend, a part of our previous webinar, but probably they know the answer.
They know the answer. Well, let's not hold people in suspense any longer. The answer is actually send the invoice. Yes, ADHD brains sometimes do all the work and get 99% of the way there, and then don't get paid because they don't send the invoice. And it seems like, well, that's silly, right? You should just do that, right? But it can be really challenging to, get all the things done, deliver the thing that you meant to deliver, and then actually send the invoice. And I see this with a lot of entrepreneurs is they are actually leaving a lot of money on the table that's already been earned just because they don't get around to sending the invoice. So we're going to talk a lot of why that is. It seems like almost a silly answer, but actually a really, really deep answer when it comes to ADHD and why that is. Understanding why that is will help you understand how to improve your revenue as an ADHD entrepreneur. Okay, so let's just zoom out a little bit. ADHD, like it has superpowers that come with it, right? There's things that make ADHD folks, brains with ADHD, people with ADHD, really really great at starting businesses, because businesses get started with bursts of insight and brilliance. And an ADHD brain gets a hold of some idea or some interest, it's going to just roll with it and create and create and create. It's going to act very quickly. Impulse, impulse control is not something that ADHD brains have a lot of. So when we get really into something, we're going to go do it. And then we love to wear many hats. We're always learning. And in the early stage of a business, we are wearing many hats. We're learning lots of stuff. We're doing all these things, and that's awesome. So a lot of businesses get started from ADHD brains, and also because, being in a very structured, regimented, routinized, repetitive corporate environment is not a place that ADHD brains often thrive. So that's why we end up going out and starting our own businesses. However, the flip side of that, as many of you have experienced, is that there's a struggle here, right? It's not a struggle to get them up with the ideas, but to actually initiate the task, to actually do the things that you intend to do, the things that you know how to do. And these are real quotes from people I've talked to. I've talked to hundreds of ADHD entrepreneurs, and these are real quotes from people who have expressed the challenges. I have all the pieces, I have the track record, but I can't get going. These are people who are brilliant, who have experience, who know what to do, but somehow just can't do it. And then instead of working steadily, we don't do anything. I beat myself up about it. Then I work 12-hour days on the weekend to catch up. I've been there on that. And we're going to talk about exactly why that happens and what to do about it. I get stuck in my head trying to figure out what's actually important. And by the time I decide, half the day is gone. So time and prioritizing and making best use of our time is always a challenge. I put a ton of effort in for 60%. And then it's not really not critical. It just kind of goes away. Like we get to a certain point of like how far we can get. And then all of a sudden it's like, I just never get around to actually finishing it. And that feeling of always feeling like I'm working on the wrong thing or just bouncing around between too many things at once. So what we get is this, even we get the successful but exhausted. We do the work, we pay the ADHD tax of working harder than it seems like we should, and we swim through this overwhelm where our growth becomes inconsistent. We're focusing on everything at once, and it feels like nothing's moving forward as fast as we'd like. It's hard to start things, so And on the backside, we're always perpetually finishing up. So it's hard to start, and so we're always finishing up, and it's hard to do that. Hard to enjoy downtime, like, because if you're always finishing up, you're never done, and you never have that space, and that increases that emotional roller coaster, and it never feels like you've done enough, and that's a lot of weight to carry around when we feel like we haven't done enough. Just curious to see who has, is this resonating with people? Have people experienced this who are on our chat? Just post in a comment whenever you want. But these are things that I encounter with a lot of ADHD clients I work with. So what we want to do today is talk about how do we navigate this with ADHD brain as an entrepreneur in life. We want to understand what's the neuroscience behind it. What are the neuroscience behind this inconsistent income cycle? We're going to look at 3 specific ways ADHD costs entrepreneurs. And then we're going to talk about weekly rituals that bridge dopamine and discipline, because I think there's a mythology around we need more discipline, and we're going to talk about why discipline isn't the end all be all answer. And then we're going to talk about how to gamify your business with them so progress feels rewarding. Okay, so if we get that covered, I think we're in pretty good shape. Awesome. So let's get into it. So first, let's just for those of you who don't know me, and we've got some sound coming through. Sergey, are you hearing some sounds?
No, everything's okay.
Okay. Yeah. I was hearing some sounds.
We have a lot of comments, by the way.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Cool. I just heard a bunch of sounds. Okay. So why listen to me? That is what I'm here to tell you. And it's because I've been there, right? From the outside, I've been pretty successful. I took my first startup from an idea to a successful multi-million-dollar exit. That's me on the left. In that left-hand picture, I'm the guy in the suit, not the guy in the fancy costume. That's me on stage winning at an angel competition a few years back. I live in Portland, Oregon. We keep it weird, and so that's us doing our thing. So I took that company to an exit, and then after I worked for the company that acquired us for a while, I became the CMO. It was a $100 million company at that point, and then I burned out and took some time, and then started coaching other founders. So from the outside, yeah, pretty successful. Successful startup, build a multi-six-figure coaching practice after going through that journey, and then. But if you look at it on the inside, it was a very different experience. It was a very different story. I got diagnosed a few years ago at age 54, and it just explained so much. It explained why I was always overwhelmed, that I was constantly paying the ADHD tax, where I was working 4 or 5 times harder just to get the same things done that other people could just sit down and do. And that daily struggle to focus. And a pile of really brilliant ideas that never quite got executed. And I knew all along, and this is what I hear a lot, is like, and I'm gonna talk about exactly why we have this feeling of underperforming what we know we're capable of, and underperforming what people are expecting of us. And then because so, I could never enjoy downtime because I was always perpetually finishing up. And so the diagnosis was life-changing. As one person I talked to put it really well, he says, I finally got the blueprints to the house I've lived in my whole life. And suddenly everything started to make sense. All these patterns that we just talked about, all those challenges that we just talked about started to make sense. And I started to go deep into it with my learning how to create systems that work for me and working with coaches. And I switched my coaching practice from just helping startup founders to supporting ADHD entrepreneurs succeed, because I can see all along that if we don't address the ADHD brain level side of things, it's really, really that much harder to succeed on the business level. So we have to have those two together. And so if you don't know me, I have a podcast called ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator, and I have a program called Your Weekly OS, which I'm going to talk about that down the road here. And we're gonna get into why all these things are. So, okay. So let's talk about ADHD, and let's just zoom out here for a second. So one of the things that I've learned and really believe now is that ADHD is such a poorly named disorder, and I actually like to call it a brain type versus a disorder, right? And I think Trevor Noah puts it here. The former host of The Daily Show puts it well here. He said, they made it seem like you can't pay attention when in fact, it's more that you can't choose what to pay your attention to. So it's not a deficit of attention. It's almost a surplus of attention. And it's about controlling that attention when we want to control it. So, and the other thing that makes ADHD not a great name is that hyperactivity isn't always involved, right? I was never hyper as a kid. So my version was very inattentive. And so I never thought I could have ADHD because I always thought ADHD required you to be a super hyper. So when you think about the name, attention deficit, not always it's not really a deficit, it's a surplus, and it's about controlling it. And hyperactivity disorder, it's like, yeah, those things, that's not a helpful name. So what we want to do is dig into what is it really? So what's in the way of us like making the progress and doing the things that we say we want to do and making good on our brilliance? Like that's the game, right? We have this brilliance. We want to make good on it. And we want to do it for ourselves and we want to do it for the world around us. So the thing is that ADHD is really more about executive function, right? It's an executive function controls our ability to do stuff and get ourselves together. It controls everything around planning and prioritizing, organization, like getting your stuff together, starting stuff, task initiation, working memory, right? Like keeping things that are out of sight in mind. Like we are not good at ADHD brains, not so good at that. Impulse control, like resisting distraction, emotional control and regulation. ADHD brains tend to go on the roller coaster quite a bit. And I never understood that. I understood why I was like that until I started to understand about how ADHD really works. Flexible thinking versus binary thinking. So either or thinking, right? We can get really locked into one path, one choice, one option, or, it's either this or that when there are other options often. And then the cruel little joke of all this is being able to self-monitor that all this is happening. So until we understand that this is how our brain, this is what's going on with our brain, it's really hard to like make progress on it. It's a difference between starting to understand what's going on and having things just happen to you. So with this reduced executive function, we get certain things. We get this time blindness. Our relationship, ADHD brain relationship to time is really interesting, right? We have the ability to have an hour feel like a minute and a minute feel like an hour. And we have generally no clue how long anything is going to take. One of the jokes I heard the other day was, how do you know if you're in a relationship with an ADHD person? If you say, hey, we've got to go in 5 minutes, we got to go to the dinner. And they say, oh, great, I'll jump in the shower. Because we have just no context on time internally. That procrastination and distraction, challenge prioritizing, and option overload. ADHD brains are very additive. This sense of heightened rejection sensitivity, RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, where like a no is really more than a no to us. It's really like a real challenge. That emotional dysregulation when we get in the spin. I call it the when we get overwhelmed, it's a swirl of like ideas and options and we can't get out of it. And when we go into the emotional dysregulation, it's the spin. So decision fatigue and paralysis, like it's just cognitively expensive to make decisions. And so when we get a whole bunch of options and they keep coming in, our brain keeps pushing them and we don't know which one's most important. Our brain's going to make everything feel like everything is equally urgent. Everything is equally important. And we're going to like get into paralysis because we just don't know what to decide. And then if we do this over time, we get this greater chance of rumination, anxiety, and depression. Studies have shown that people with ADHD are way more likely to suffer from anxiety and depression than people who are diagnosed purely with anxiety and depression are likely to have ADHD. So I really love what Dr. Russell Barkley says on this, and that is that ADHD isn't an attention disorder, it's a performance disorder. It's not that ADHD brains know what to do, they have trouble doing what they know. And I think that's a great way to put it. And here's why. Okay, so this is like, to me, like the more I've talked about this, the more I've gone through this, it comes down to reward mechanisms, right? There are two things that get an ADHD brain going into action, into doing things. And those two things is, first one is intense interest. If we're interested in it, we will hyperfocus and we will do it. Like that gets us going. We love that. That is dopamine all day and all night, right? Okay, so that's one thing. We get some intense interest, we will get into motion. The other one is urgent consequences, right? If we have consequences or people we're going to disappoint or the risk of rejection sensitivity, then we're going to get into motion, right? And so these are the two major drivers of action for an ADHD brain. So what happens is that there is this space in between, which is where things aren't that intensely interesting, and consequences are far enough away that they're not motivating enough into actions. And what we have in the middle here is this dopamine desert, right? And the dopamine desert is the place where actually a lot of like consistent progress happens. And if we can't make that consistent progress without intense interest or urgent consequences, we're gonna be in this cycle of like, things started with intense interest, then put down, and then maybe scrambling to the deadline. And like sometimes Hanako says, sometimes big consequences don't even help. And I've seen that. I've seen that people blow through like major deadlines. And part of that is because if we haven't made any progress in this dopamine desert, by the time we get to the deadlines, the deadline is so overwhelming. The consequences, the possibility of actually completing the thing to avoid the consequence just feels so far out of reach that we just go into paralysis, right? And that's part of not being able to make things happen in the dopamine desert. And Sophie brings up a really good point. It's a really stressful way to live, right? If your main motivations are just interest or mostly avoiding consequences, then you don't get that satisfaction of completing something, right? Just for the satisfaction of completing something, right? What you get, right, is relief. And relief is not the same as satisfaction. Relief means you escaped, and you can go from, really stressed out to like, and it's really a cycle that I lived and didn't know I was living it. But this is what it looks like, right? We have the consequences of a deadline. We spin up to try to meet that. And then there's this huge crash afterwards, right? We expend a lot of executive function. We use up a lot of dopamine. And then afterwards, it's like a week to recover sometimes. And then we repeat the cycle. And then, this guilt and shame spiral starts to happen, right? Because it's like, why can't we just do the thing? Why can't we just show up? We know we are smart enough. We know we have what it takes from intelligence, from a creativity, from all the things that make us amazing. And yet, for some reason, because of this, inability to kind of get moving in the dopamine desert, it's a real problem. And the near-term problem is that we're underperforming on the regular, right? We get into that decision paralysis, we get that procrastination, we deliver on the last minute, and we're under delivering. We know we could have done better, or we're blowing through the deadline. Knowing you could have done better, right? can't relax and enjoy that downtime because you didn't win. You just avoided consequences barely by the skin of your teeth, or you plowed through and you just took the consequences and now you're dealing with that. Right. And that means other parts of life don't have the opportunity to kind of flourish, right? It gets crowded out. Relationships get crowded out. Our own personal joy gets crowded out. Things that we'd like to do, get crowded out. And that cost over time starts to really work against us because compounding is something that doesn't just happen in our bank account. It happens in life, right? As Einstein said, the compounding is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. And so over time, when we make progress, that progress compounds over time. When we don't make the progress or we're constantly restarting, then our compounding is not going to be as good. And then we're going to find ourselves down the road, not as far as we knew that our talents could get us. And that's where, I think a lot of the, where our self-trust and our self-worth start to take a hit because we keep, falling short of what we expect from ourselves and what others do. And so it's a real challenge. But I want to say the good news is it doesn't actually have to be this way, right? There are ways, even with an ADHD brain, to work with this, to navigate the dopamine desert and to be able to make the progress, right? So I'm just giving you some good news from folks who have been in my programs and in my groups. This person landed 2 new contracts this week. We got a project done. This person actually got a project done ahead of schedule last week, and she's actually ahead of schedule for this month. Made my deadline, took a short break to get ready to refocus again. Making progress doing client work is actually fun. It's just hard to start it. Once we get started, it's pretty fun. So sometimes it's that resistance to starting. And so we can do this even with ADHD. And this is what we're going to talk about today. So these things manifest in specific kind of cash challenges in business and in life. I'm going to focus on the business because, that's my focus is entrepreneurship. We're going to look at challenge 1. When it comes to cash flow. Challenge 1 is just proposing and actually inviting people or offering people to do stuff for them and get paid for it, right? And here's what's going on there is money is not always the most motivating factor for an ADHD brain, right? It's just the motivation, right, really comes from intense interests or urgent consequences, right? That's what gets us really going. Money in itself is stuff we need. And of course, there's some folks with ADHD who love money and can really use it as motivation. But I always felt a little out of place sometimes in the entrepreneurial world because it was almost a secondary thing. And so sometimes that makes it hard for us to get paid and to get asked for and actually propose stuff. Freedom and relief from consequences are what gets us going. So what happens is we'll say, okay, I'm going to pick this monetary goal that's going to be really abundant. And I want to go make that goal. But as soon as we get to the point where we have enough money where we're pretty good, sometimes that's just, we're not that much motivated to go further than that. And so sometimes you can, fall short of your financial goals because you're not aware where the motivation in your brain is really coming from. And challenge number 2 is delivering. So this one, I think everybody can totally get because we've talked about it already. It's okay, once we've got the work, once we've sold the gig, once we've gotten the client, we have to deliver. We have to actually produce the work, right? And so again, if we are super interested in the work, that's great. If there's a deadline coming on us, it's not as great, but it'll get us moving generally. But that if all the action in between, there's no action until that. Deadlines just get flat out missed, as people have talked about. And then we get that guilt and shame for letting everyone down, including yourself, and usually starting with yourself. And then 2 things happen. Either we don't deliver, we might not even get paid for the gig, and we are definitely putting at risk our next gig or our next client, or with our next work with that same client, which is the best way to build, right? Is to keep serving clients better and better. And then the last thing is the aftermath. And we talked a little bit about that. there's no follow-up once you've done the work. The invoices might not be sent, so the money doesn't actually come in. You did the work, hooray! You made the client happy, hooray! You didn't get paid because the invoice didn't get sent. Expenses not tracked, bills missed, so we're kind of maybe leaking some cash. And it's one of those things where we really can. This is the thing I was just also realizing is that because of the working memory, things that we did and accomplished even a week or even earlier in the week tend to disappear. So we often forget about clients that we served previously or folks who were interested, and we don't ever circle back. And we have all these things that we've created over time, and we have these assets, and we've forgotten about them, and we could be using them. We could be turning them into a course, or we could be turning them into our next offer. So there's a lot that happens. So how do we solve for this, right? So I don't want to be just a downer, but let me just stop here. Is that those three things where it's like proposing, delivering, and the aftermath? Is that resonating with folks? Have you guys experienced that?
I believe absolutely yes. You can go through some of the comments, and a lot of them, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. So, I'm just here to say that you're not alone in that, and there is a way out, and a way to make this happen. But it starts with understanding how your brain is the game your brain is playing. So, first thing I'm going to say is put the right time container, and that is nail your weeks. And key number 2 is game your brain. Like that is know the game your brain is playing, because when you know that, you can also you can devise strategies, and then don't do it alone. Right. This is something that I've learned over time, that the ADHD brains actually will try to do things alone because we want to cut off stimulation and input. But what we really need is a little bit of friendly and companionshiping and accountability. Okay, so weeks are the key. Why are weeks the key? Well, if you recall, ADHD brains have a really hard time motivating out in the future. So that could be money, that could be time. So when we set goals for the year or for the quarter, it's almost too far out for us to even motivate ourselves, right? To actually even like get into action. So we're not going to get into action unless there's interest or consequence, right? So we know that a year or a quarter is too far out. On the flip side, days are way too variable. Like every day is different, but a day can go sideways in a heartbeat. Something happens with the client, something happens with the family, something happens with yourself, the house, whatever. You can't always count on your days. And months depends on weeks. If we string 4 good weeks together, we get a good month. Okay, so this is why weeks are a really good container. If we know what's important going into a week, and we can make progress on what's important in that week, we are going to make progress. And so this is a way to kind of say, okay, one technique I always teach is if the time frame is too long, narrow the time frame. Like when we're in the dopamine desert, we want to narrow the time frame. And so this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about X-Tiles, and I'll share my dashboard. But the thing that really brought me over to X-Tiles, and I was a former Notion user, was the ability to make things visually look the way I want and lay things out the way I want. And this is why I created my dashboard in X-Tiles, because I know I needed to have everything in one glance, including stuff I needed that were really important to keep in mind. I need priorities front and center, because my calendar will show me how I spend my time, but it will not necessarily show me priorities. It will kind of flatten the priorities. It'll just be time. So I need that front and center, because my working memory is not good enough to hold them. And I don't want to be surprised by things that I forgot to do. Like I know this experience of like you get into the Monday or Tuesday, and then you realize you got surprised by something that you had committed to or said yes to, or a follow-up you needed to do. Adapts as needed. Like it needs to adapt to my brain, and I need to be able to be flexed during the week. And this is really important. It isn't its own distraction. Like I find a lot of tools is they go like you go down the rabbit hole, and that rabbit hole becomes its own distraction of the tool. And so you do this procrasta working, where you're making the tool look really awesome and learning about the tool, but you're not actually moving the important things forward. And depending on how you want to do it, print or digital, and that is something that I can do with Xtiles. So I'm going to just quickly walk through my dashboard. So you guys, I know you guys are curious about how to use Xtiles, and I want to give you one way to do that I found to be, and a lot of folks have as well. So here's my ADHD dashboard, and I'll just walk you through it. This is all built in Xtiles. What's key is that I teach in my EOS course are all embedded here, because these are the things I need as an ADHD brain to like understand how my week's going to go and to make the most out of my week, right? And that is, I need to know what my mission and vision is, my magnetic north. I need that in front of me all the time, because if it's not there in front of me all the time, I will forget about it. My working memory will not hold it, and I will find it very easy to get pulled off course. And then in order to make that magnetic north, this mission and vision that I have, my mission is to help ADHD entrepreneurs get out of overwhelm, reclaim focus, and feel free in business and life, right? I have things I want to done on the way to that vision. So I establish different waypoints. It sounds like construction's going on somewhere here on the broadcast. I know it's not in my area. So if you've got, if you're moving around, if you could mute your microphone, that would be awesome. Okay. So waypoint is, how close do I get there? Like, what's my next step? What's the in-between steps? Because ADHD brains are breaking things down into smaller steps. That's why, like, breaking things down into waypoints, like what's halfway there? What's a quarter way there? And then I develop different, what I call rocks. Some people are probably familiar with the rock concept. And then my smallest next step. And then I'll brain dump all the different projects and tasks. So I use the toggles for projects, and the tasks become part of that. And then I will brain dump on the left, and I will then narrow as I go over to the right. And then I have what I call the 2-hour workday concept. That's what I teach in my course. And that is, we have, like, if we really want to think about it, 2 hours of really good peak executive function each day, where we can sit down and kind of trust ourselves to do stuff. 2 hours. Some days will be more, some days will be less. If you're younger, you probably have more potentially, but it all depends on where your brain is on a given day. But if I can do 2 hours, if I have 2 hours of really good executive function, I want to put the most important stuff in those 2 hours, right? Because I have the best chance of moving the most important stuff. And so I don't do the really like crazy time blocking where you spend a lot of time figuring out exactly, where to put things in your week, because as an ADHD brain, one, that's really hard and cognitively expensive. And two, we have no idea how long anything takes. So us trying to time block in some sort of like specific way is not going to end well for us. And then I'm able to just drag my tasks into my 2-hour workday. If something, falls over into the next day, I can just drag it. And so I have a quick at a glance view of what are my biggest priorities. And you'll notice I don't actually integrate my calendar. I can, but I like having just the clarity of what's important. And then I can go and cross-reference with my calendar. And then, of course, I have my self-care habits up here, because I know that if I track my sleep and my meds and my movement, exercise, and my nutrition, I'll give myself the best possible ADHD brain I can have. So that is a quick overview of the dashboard that I use. And it's been super helpful. It's been a game changer for me and a game changer for a lot of the folks who have been using it in my courses and stuff. All right, let's go back. And cool. And I'm happy to answer at the end any questions on that dashboard as well. But we'll go back into where we were. We talked about managing weeks. And this is why it's just, if I can stay within a week, I can get stuff done. If I start looking down a month and stuff like that, it's a really hard thing. Okay, game your brain, right? We have to change the question with an ADHD brain from how do I get everything done to how do I best manage my brain? because it's really in working with your brain that you're going to make progress over time. If we know that our brain is going to be really challenged in the dopamine desert, and yet that's where like peaceful, and I'll talk about it later, like low trauma deadlines happen, then we need to understand how our brain works, our unique brain, because everybody's a little different. Everybody's got a different flavor. We need to be able to work with that. Big thing. So we talked about discipline and willpower mentioned. Discipline and willpower are exceedingly small pools of resource for ourselves and our brains, right? We only have so much of it, right? And so how we deploy it is got to be really strategic, right? So it's so much more effective to deploy your willpower to turn off all notifications versus trying to resist each individual notification, right? That is a good use of willpower and discipline. But also the best thing is, and that's a great example of setting the environment. And the environment, if the better your environment, the better it supports you, and that is makes it easier to get the most out of your willpower and discipline that you do have. And the thing is that I've seen is that we have more executive function together than alone, right? I always find that when I do things with other people, I can stay on task a lot better. And this is the third thing about crossing the dopamine desert. One of the things that I highly recommend and include in all my programs is body doubling. I call it co-working. And is about finding a doing tribe, a group where you can drop the mask and be yourself. Like everybody in our group is ADHD, and they're just like, we just get each other, and we don't have to like pretend any other way. And it's a forcing function to ensure you show up and do stuff. And it actually takes one part of ADHD, like rejection sensitivity. What if I disappoint? Well, I just told everybody what I'm going to do. When we show up, we say what we're going to do. We set a timer and we go do the thing. And if we get to the end of the thing and I say, I didn't do the thing, then there's a little bit of like RSD that can happen. And we just use that in a healthy way to help with the procrastination and distraction. And this is what one person says with it. I feel more settled when I engage in co-working. Being around others who are also focusing helps me feel accountable and regulated. Setting the environment. The environment is so much more powerful than our discipline and willpower. Renee, this is reminding me a bit of Atomic Habits, which does feel like an ADHD-friendly system generally, and yet, the thing that's missing with those kind of like Atomic Habits and GTD is these kind of support functions, these support things like the body doubling and the kind of acknowledgement of the ADHD brain. And when you actually add that support in, like this stuff really starts to work. And it's fun. Like we've created a really amazing community. So what I like to think of it is a weekly OS. It's a progress system, not just a planning system, because we know just planning doesn't mean we're gonna do it as an ADHD brain. So we want to reduce the overwhelm, help prioritize, and decide even when we've got a lot of options. And Tia, this goes to your question about mission vision is not changing every week, right? Yeah, we can have different durations. Like some people have like long-term mission vision. Some people are in burnout and they're just like, the mission is get out of burnout, like have a good month. That's a perfectly acceptable mission. And that doesn't change every week. But what that does is it gives us, it's the like key to being able to decide and prioritize, because there's no way to decide and prioritize unless you don't understand or you don't have a good sense of what you want to make happen in your world, or what impact you want to make. And also the vision thing is, the way I have it is what do you want your life to look like, right? If we have those two things clearly in our mind, then we can look at options and have a better way of making decisions. But without that, everything could work. So we're open to the possibilities. So we need it to reduce the overwhelm. If we get out of the overwhelm, we get some clarity, then we can focus, and that helps us stop the procrastination and overcome distraction, as does the co-working. And we need that community of like-brained people to sustain that over time, because that's one of the things the ADHD brains will be challenged with, is sustaining anything for any length of time. And it has to adapt to your unique brain, right? Okay. So, and the thing I think the key to all of this and this was a phrase that one of Jenny Smith in our co-working community, said, and I was like, that's brilliant. She called it a low trauma deadline. Like she'd experienced a low trauma deadline, like a deadline that she just met, and it wasn't traumatic, and she didn't need 4 days of recovery afterwards. And it was just an amazing way to put it. So very cool. So what happens when people are able to put these kind of pieces in place? This person was able to complete the work for 3 clients this week. So happy I danced around my house an hour this morning. And this person, when she joined my program, was pretty much ready to give up. So it's amazing to see the transformation. This person said, I just feel freer. I mean, it's just amazing. I had a huge backlog of flagged emails and I've cut that in half. I mean, I just feel more relaxed. Like I can do this. It's a good feeling. My ADHD brain was telling me to give up. It's too hard. Having a place to show up daily with both makes me accountable and supports me in this unique way is quite frankly beyond my wildest dreams. Love that. I got more done in the last 40 minutes than I've done in the last 2.5 months. That is a phenomenon we hear, that this thing took 5 months and 20 minutes, 5 months to procrastinate and 20 minutes to actually do the thing. And this person got the real work done, got all 5 email sequences and social media done yesterday, means able to give it to the team. And it's almost miraculous, is what she says. So if this all sounds good to you and is interesting, we have a program. I have a course called Your Weekly OS, and it is about creating your specific weekly OS. And it's a 3-week program. And what we'll do is we'll install a weekly system tuned to your brain. We'll transform how you manage and prioritize your time and how to avoid distractions and complete your tasks and make progress and feel productive. That is what the biggest thing that people talk about. And you can see some of the quotes here. Do it. The amount of progress you will be able to make will give you back the value and beyond. It was a no-brainer even before the 3 weeks were over. This person said, I've been a productivity geek for a long time. Nothing ever sticks. And this 2 hours a day was like absolutely mind-blowing. So here's what it consists of. An interactive gamified course, 3 weeks of, and we're going to go in a little bit of detail with our time, 3 weeks of co-working sessions every weekday, and weekly live coaching. And with Xtiles in partnership, a year of Xtiles Plus. Amazing. So the gamified course is really cool. Like this is built specifically for ADHD brains. There are dopamine hits everywhere in this thing. And as one person said, the gamification of this online course platform is incredible. It's so ADHD friendly and so much better than other online courses platforms I've used. And it's interactive in that I comment on a lot of posts. So when you complete some of the training, some of the activities, there's places for you to put comments, and I actually get in there and comment and give you support there too. As this person said, attention and responses in an online course, not something to be taken for granted. Steve's involvement is impressive and encouraging. And of the coaches I've worked with or considered Steve's program, an approach has been the best. Most thought through one so far. So here's the thing that I think really separates it. So we have the course, but if I just gave you a course, I don't think, you get some benefit out of it, but you wouldn't get into the motion and you wouldn't get into the action. And so that's what this course really delivers, because it includes 3 weeks of co-working sessions, Monday through Friday. And the big news is we've expanded. It's now 4 hours of co-working a day from 9 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern time. So whatever that time is for you, there's 4 hours now where you can come in, say what you're going to do, and make progress. And that has been a real game changer for folks. And so that is something that if you do nothing else in the course, almost like that will guarantee you progress. And then I have the weekly live learning set every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. People come in for an hour and I will coach you specifically as a group on your questions and get you through any bottlenecks. And this person who just finished said it transformed my work week in just a short time, literally from week 1. And now I look forward to making steady progress towards my goals. It's a game changer for ADHD entrepreneurs. So this is, as you can see, it's having a huge impact. And I'm offering for this go around, offering a bonus workshop. And it's the 5-day cash triage workshop, where we're going to go through and we're going to give you a 5-day plan. to triage cash in the different ways you can find it in your business. And that's going to be Wednesday, November 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So that's a bonus session that is happening with this go around. So that's really good in the sense of like, just think about, what if you did follow up with those people? What if you did send the invoices? What if you did find the thing that you could actually turn into a mini course or a lead magnet? That is what this 5-day workshop is going to give you. And I'm excited to be given that. So here's the wrap up on your weekly OS. You get the interactive gamified course. This is super cool. You get the 3 weeks of co-working sessions, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you're in the European time zone, that will be, I guess, UK time. That'll be 2 to 6 p.m.-ish, I guess. I'm not good at time zones, ADHD brain, but it's definitely accessible in a way it wasn't before. You got the weekly live learning sessions for the 3 Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And you get the 1 year plus X-Tiles account subscription, $99. It's included. This is all normally $4.99. We're doing it for $1.99 with the coupon code. And you can start anytime, right? I've set this course so that when you're ready to go, you can start right away. So if you go to that link and use this coupon code, you will be able to start right away. Now, if you want to start at a later time, just let me know when you register. Just send me an email, reply back to the welcome email and say, hey, I want to start at a later date, and I will make that happen for you too. But you can take advantage of this opportunity. I highly recommend starting now, but if you're like, now isn't a good time, I'd like to start in a week or two, let me know and we'll make that work for you as well. Oh, cool. So that is what I got today. We've got about 8 minutes left for questions and thoughts. So lay it on us. Both Sergey and I are here to answer any questions on X-Tiles, on your weekly OS, and on ADHD.
Thank you, Steve. Amazing session as always. Yeah, just want to say it's amazing approach. I use almost the same layout, like a weekly layout for myself, because previously, I'm also a time blocker. I like to, have a lot of events because during the day I have a lot of meetings with you guys, to be honest. And sometimes I just want to keep track of what am I doing, maybe to have some, brainstorming sessions, something related to the community as well. So, there's a question from Tia, by the way. Just want to say that I was a guy who was planning a day, I used a daily layout with a lot of tasks during the day, 40, 50 tasks. But later on, I switched to a weekly layout, and it became so much easier. To be honest, you need to be focused on really important stuff. That's how Steve helps. And there's a question from Tia, by the way, Steve.
Let me see what we got here. I still don't know what I'd need to focus on in the program yet. I'm still in decision paralysis mode, it feels like. And with Tia as well, will you help with nailing down the mission vision? Absolutely. That is one of the biggest milestones that we do is, in fact, we actually have a little Canva template that you get when you complete it, but that is part of the coaching. Is that, yes, you will have the right mission and vision for you when you leave the program. Actually, very early on, because it's one of the most important things that we do, because again, you can't make decisions without having that really established. And I would say that goes with Kurai as well. If this will help give you that clarity to know what to focus on, right? To get out of the decision paralysis, because when you have that clarity on what you want to make happen and how you want your life to look, then you can start looking at the things that the options that you do have, and you can then make some decisions about what's the next thing. And so when you have that mission vision and you start breaking them down into smaller steps, and you have the help and support and guidance, and you can show up to a place every day that helps you make a little bit of progress in the dopamine desert, like, it is life-changing. So I really invite folks to check it out, because what I'm seeing from people is just a whole different way that they're experiencing life.
Yeah, for sure. Willow, thank you so much for your feedback. And Android app is on the way. So as always, working on it. So thank you. Okay, we still have a couple of minutes. Just to all of our attendees who wants to sign up, maybe have some questions. I will help you to understand textiles better, so don't be afraid of a new tool or whatever. So yeah, another question.
Yeah. How do you help us find clarity in our magnetic north when we can't even decide? Because one of the things that is fascinating about the human mind is it's really, especially ADHD brains, it's really noisy in there. Like, you have a lot of noise in your brain around all the things that are going on. And I don't have your set of noise. I have my own noise, but I can, and this is what we do as part of the program, is we help you clarify what's the noise that is the most important noise. And that is exactly how the process works, and people who've been through the program know it, and that we do it asynchronously in the course, and we do it in those live weekly sessions where you're actually able to work with me, and we'll talk through, well, what do you want in your life? What is the business that you're contemplating? What's the most important? And some of those things we will do, and you'll be like, I don't know. It's like, that's a really big question. And then we'll shrink the question. We'll either shrink it through a timeline, and we'll say, okay, well, what do you want to just figure out for the next month? Right. And the mission and vision isn't a forever mission. It's a right now mission. And sometimes it lasts for months and years. And sometimes it's just like, what do we need to move forward? Because I can tell you that being in decision paralysis is, and I've been there, I understand how it feels, is like nothing's happening, right? There's no motion forward. So even making a decision, and sometimes we just go with the attitude, because you decided that, it was the right decision because it got you moving forward.
Yeah, another question from Sophie. Yeah, we constantly work on loading time and everything. So we had an update today. So double check it, please.
Yeah, there's it's almost impossible to find a Y or magnetic north that translate into real life work. I disagree with that statement. I think it can be really challenging. Like, I definitely don't like, I definitely understand that it can feel like, hey, how do I even connect this? But a lot of folks in the program also are working one job and starting their true passion. And when you put things into context, because we have one person who's like doing learning curriculum development as a freelancer, but what she really wants to do is she's created these travel journals, and she could never actually move that project forward, and always started resenting her freelance work where she was making her money and supporting her life. And once we were able to like show her that that these things support each other, and that she was able to make progress on the thing, and she has her physical travel journal. She did it after years of wanting to do it, and is starting to push it out there. Then things move forward, right? And so I think I would just invite people to take the leap and see if there is another side that we've seen.
Definitely. And one more question, maybe one of the last questions from Tia. She's not an entrepreneur yet, but Steve, I believe you could help. You definitely can help her.
Yeah, I think we have somebody, some folks in the program who are in that situation, who are in between gigs, who are aspiring to entrepreneur, or are working inside of an organization. And it is a really good phase, because the thing about unemployment is like the most unstructured phase of life, right? And ADHD brains really can struggle to move forward without some sort of sense of structure and support. And for these 3 weeks, you would have just amazing support and structure. And we really set you up on your
Good
journey.
point.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Willow. Yes, thank you all.
Yeah. I need to drop, but as I've realized I've got a client at the top of the hour, I kind of put things a little
Oh,
tight today. So, but if you have questions for Sergey on X-Tiles or anything else, he is here as long as he wants
yeah.
to be here. Last question. Yes, there is a support after the 3 weeks. There's a community called ADHD Entrepreneur Accelerator that you can join. It's very reasonably priced. So, yeah. So we don't leave you hanging. We support you the whole way.
Thank you, Steve. I believe you need to go to another meeting. So thank you so much for your session. Thank you for answering all the questions. And yeah, just want to say thank you to all of our attendees. I believe you have still like amazing audience. Maybe you have some questions, but my feedback, I was I took a part on one of these sessions, like a super supportive community, and Steve, he's just an amazing guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. So glad you were able to join us, and hopefully we'll see you in your weekly OS. And have an amazing day wherever you are.
See you, Steve. I will answer a couple of more questions. Willow, thank you so much for your feedback. Grace, thank you so much. Luca, thank you as well. Jane, thank you so much. Sophie, thank you as well. By the way, tomorrow we will have another webinar. It is related to some new features we will have inside X-Tiles. Stay tuned. It's pretty amazing, and we will have one super amazing feature that I will showcase tomorrow. So stay tuned. And webinar on the web clipper soon. Yeah, we can do it next Wednesday, definitely. Yeah. Bjorn, Star Trek fan, I believe. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you so much. If you choose to be a part of Steve's journey, let's say our journey, keep in mind that we will always help our users to understand sex styles better. It's super simple to be honest, but still quite powerful. And if you hesitate, just want to assure you that we will always help and we will find a solution to your particular case. So thank you so much. And some of you already know and already see that we have a lot of amazing people in our community. And there is a question about our next webinar tomorrow. So I will share a link. You can always find the link. You can go to our YouTube channel and you will see it. Otherwise, just use the link that I will share inside our chat. Thank you, Stephanie, so much. Yeah, I believe that's it. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day, and I will see you